The massive station floated in the darkness between two dying stars. It was called the Vault of Second Chances, and it was the only place in the entire galaxy where forgotten stories of redemption were kept alive. The station belonged to humans, and no other species in the known universe understood why they had built it. Was a diplomat who had traveled 3 months through dangerous space to reach this station. Her 4 eyes scanned the entrance hall with confusion and wonder. The walls were covered with names, millions of names written in gold, silver, and bronze. Some names belonged to humans, others belonged to aliens from 100 different worlds. All of them shared one thing in common. They had all been given second chances, and they had used those chances to become something better. Commander walked toward the visitor with a warm smile on her face. She was the head archivist of the vault, a position that had been passed down through her family for 5 generations. Her grandmother had been one of the founders of this place, back when humanity first joined the Galactic Council and discovered a terrible truth about alien civilizations. The aliens did not believe in second chances. In every major alien culture, a person who committed a serious crime or made a terrible mistake was marked forever. They were cast out, forgotten, erased from history. Their families would deny knowing them. Their achievements would be deleted from records. They would become nothing, as if they had never existed at all. This was considered justice. This was considered the natural order of things. But humans were different. Extended her hand, too. The hesitated before accepting the greeting. Physical contact between species was rare in galactic politics, but the humans of the vault were known for their strange customs. Led through the great halls of the station, each room was dedicated to a different kind of redemption story. There were soldiers who had committed war crimes and then spent their remaining lives saving civilians. There were scientists who had created weapons of destruction and then dedicated themselves to healing the sick. There were thieves who had stolen fortunes and then built schools for poor children. There were murderers who had taken lives and then protected the innocent until their dying breath. Felt uncomfortable as she walked through these halls. In her culture, such people would have been executed or exiled. Their names would have been forbidden. Their stories would have been burned. But here, the humans had preserved everything, every detail, every struggle, every moment of falling down and getting back up again. Stopped in front of a large display screen. The face of an old male appeared on the screen, recognized him immediately. Her body went rigid with shock. This was Admiral. He was the most hated figure in history. 300 years ago, he had ordered the destruction of a refugee convoy, killing over 50,000 innocent people. His name had been erased from all records. Speaking his name aloud was a crime punishable by imprisonment. But here, in this human station, his face was displayed proudly on the wall. Began to speak in a calm and respectful voice. She told the part of the story that had been erased from history. After the massacre, Admiral had suffered a complete breakdown. He had tried to end his own life 3 times, but a human doctor stationed on his ship had saved him each time. The doctor had talked to him for hours every day, forcing him to confront what he had done. Instead of running from his guilt, had chosen to face it. He had resigned from his military position and devoted the rest of his life to helping refugees. He had traveled to the most dangerous border zones in the galaxy and personally rescued over 300,000 displaced people from war zones. He had used his military knowledge to create safe passage routes that were still being used today. He had died protecting a ship full of children from pirates, throwing himself in front of their weapons to give the ship time to escape. None of this was recorded in history. All of this had been preserved by humans. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She had been taught to hate this man since childhood, but now she was learning that his story did not end with his worst moment. His story continued. His story showed what a person could become when they refused to let their mistakes define them forever. Explained why humans had created the Vault of Second Chances. When humanity first entered the galactic community, They had been shocked by how other species treated those who had fallen from grace. Humans had a long and complicated history with the concept of redemption. Their religion spoke of forgiveness. Their stories celebrated heroes who had once been villains. Their legal systems included concepts like rehabilitation and parole. Their cultures valued the idea that every person, no matter how badly they had failed, deserved the opportunity to try again. This was considered extremely strange by other species. The belief that evil was permanent and could never be cleansed. The belief that one's first serious failure revealed their true nature. The belief that allowing someone to redeem themselves was an insult to their victims. But humans believed something different. Humans believed that people were not fixed. Humans believed that growth was possible. Humans believed that the measure of a person was not their worst moment, but what they chose to do after that moment. So they built the vault. They sent researchers to every corner of the galaxy, searching for stories that other species had tried to erase. They found generals who had become healers. They found tyrants who had become teachers. They found monsters who had become guardians. They preserved these stories with care and respect, making sure that no act of genuine redemption would ever be forgotten. At first, the other species had been angry. They had demanded that the humans stop this offensive practice. They had threatened to expel humanity from the Galactic Council, but the humans had refused to give up the vault. His grandmother had stood before the council and delivered a speech that would be remembered for centuries. She had said that every species in the galaxy had individuals who had failed. Every species had people who had committed terrible acts, but only humans had the courage to believe that these individuals could change. Only humans had the wisdom to preserve their journeys from darkness to light. Only humans understood that erasing these stories did not make the universe cleaner. It only made the universe more hopeless. Because when you erase every story of redemption, you teach people that change is impossible. You teach them that their mistakes will follow them forever. You teach them that there is no point in trying to be better. The council had been silent for a long time after that speech. Eventually, they had agreed to let the vault continue operating. Some species had even started sending their own archivists to learn from the humans. Spent 3 weeks at the vault, reading story after story. She learned about a human dictator who had caused millions of deaths and then spent his final years building hospitals with his own hands. She learned about an assassin who had killed dozens of political leaders and then created a network of safe houses for endangered activists. She learned about a scientist who had developed biological weapons and then destroyed her own research and devoted her life to environmental restoration. Each story followed a similar pattern. A person made a terrible choice. They caused great harm. They faced the consequences of their actions. They felt the weight of their guilt. And then, instead of giving up or running away, they chose to rebuild. They chose to do something good with whatever time they had left. They chose to prove that their worst moment was not their final moment. Some of these people had been forgiven by society. Many had not. Some had died alone, still hated by those they had wronged. But the humans preserved their stories anyway, because the point was not whether others forgave them. The point was whether they had found the strength to forgive themselves and then do something meaningful with that forgiveness. Before left the vault, gave her a small data crystal. It contained the complete story of Admiral, asked to share this story with her people. She asked her to help them understand that erasing someone from history did not undo their crimes. It only prevented others from learning that change was possible. Returned to her with the data crystal hidden in her belongings. She was taking a great risk. Possessing information about erased individuals was a serious crime, but she had been changed by her time at the vault. She had learned something that her people had forgotten. She had learned that hope was more powerful than punishment. She began sharing the story quietly at first. She told it to her family. She told it to her closest friends. And slowly, like a small flame spreading through dry grass, the story began to move through society. People began to whisper about Admiral. They began to ask questions that had never been asked before. They began to wonder if their practice of erasure was truly just, or if it was simply a way of pretending that their failures had never happened. 3 years after his visit to the vault, the government officially requested access to the human archives. They wanted to learn about their own erased history. They wanted to understand the concept of second chances. Commander welcomed them personally. She showed them the halls filled with names. She showed them the stories of beings who had fallen into darkness and then clawed their way back toward the light. She showed them what humans had always believed, the simple truth that had guided their species through countless wars and disasters and near extinctions. No one was beyond redemption. No mistake was truly final. Every day was an opportunity to begin again. The humans had preserved these stories not because they were soft or naive. They had preserved them because they understood something fundamental about the nature of intelligent life. They understood that every being, no matter how advanced or ancient, was capable of terrible things. And they understood that the only way to build a better future was to believe that those same beings were also capable of incredible growth. The vault of second chances continued to grow. New stories arrived every day from across the galaxy. Researchers worked tirelessly to verify each account, making sure that only genuine transformations were recorded. And slowly, species that had once mocked the humans for their strange beliefs began to understand why this work mattered. Because in a universe filled with darkness and violence and despair, the humans had built a monument to hope. They had created a place where the fallen could be remembered not for their failures, but for their courage to try again. They had given the galaxy something it had never known it needed. They had given it second chances. And that, more than any weapon or technology or empire, was what made humanity truly remarkable.